Hi folks, this is Vicki from patternprincess.com. Today we're going to do a tutorial on how to do the bobble stitch. And this bobble stitch here happens to be 6 double crochet together. And this is, sometimes folks have the bobble stitches when you see a pattern that has, 5, 4, 3, or even more than 6 double crochet stitches together. And that creates the bobble stitch, and it pops out on one side of the pattern. If I'm going to turn this over, you'll see that it's flat and you can hardly tell. Like right here is a bobble stitch, so you can see that, but it's really subtle on the back side of it. Now if you change color, you'll be able to see in each space where the bobble stitch was, because you'll be able to see a little circle of color. But I'm going to show you just how to do the regular bobble stitch right now without changing color, without doing anything. But I'm also going to do the next row of crochet on the other side so you can see where you put your stitches afterwards to make sure that it comes out right. And then you'll have to, when you do the bobble stitches, you always got to be having the row facing away from you as you work your bobble stitches. So I'm going to get this going here. What I have is this swatch here. It's 25 double crochets long. So I've done 2 rows here, and then in the 3rd row is where I place my bobble stitch. So I had this facing away from me as I was working my bobble stitch. And so then here's that. Then I did another 1, 2, 3 rows of double crochet, and then I did another row of single crochet with bobble stitch. And now I've done 1, 2, 3 rows of double crochet, and now I'm going to work the bobble stitch row for you. So here we go. This yarn I'm using today is the Caron Simply Soft, and it's in gold. I've actually recently made a blanket, a holiday blanket, using this color, and this color was one of the bobbles. So here we go. So on the other side, remember that bobble is going to peek out on the other side. So I'm going to do I like to chain 1 when I do my single crochet. Then I do a stitch right back in that first stitch. So this is going to count now as my 1, my first stitch. When I find for myself, when I'm doing bobble stitches, I need to count. Because if you are off 1 stitch, everybody will see that the bobble stitch is not in the right place, and it'll throw your rows off from there on out. So that counts as 1. So here we go in the next stitch. 2, 3, 4. Now this piece here is 25 stitches long, as I had told you. Every 5 stitches I did my bobble stitch. So that was just stitch 4. So now in the 5th stitch, I'm going to work my bobble. So I'm going to yarn over, because remember it's a double crochet, 6 together is my bobble. So I yarned over, I'm going to go into that stitch right here, the next stitch, insert my hook, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over, bring it through 2 loops on the hook. Then I'm going, normally if you double crochet, a normal double crochet, you'd yarn over and go through the last 2, but we're going to hold this stitch on the hook. I'm going to do this 5 more times. So that was 1, yarn over, insert your hook to the hole, yarn and bring that through, yarn over, bring it through 2 loops, and then hold the stitch on the line, on the hook. So yarn over, insert in the same spot, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over, go through 2 loops. Now we have your initial chain here from the stitch before, and then 3 loops. So 3 more times. So 1, go over, yarn over, go through the spot, yarn over, bring it through 2 loops, keep it on the hook, yarn over, go through the same stitch, yarn over, bring it through, yarn over, go through 2 stitches. Yarn over, and the more that you get on your hook, it does get a little bit tougher to keep everything on the hook as you do this. And sometimes I have to take a stitch or 2 out and go back and redo, but that's okay. So here we have, let's look at what we have. We have that initial stitch here from the previous stitch. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have our 6 double crochet half done right here. So we actually have 7 loops on the hook. We're going to go through all of the loops. So we're going to yarn over, and now we're going to bring this yarn through all of the loops. There you go. That bobble has been completed. Now you might be looking at this and saying, it's not a bobble yet. That's correct. Now our next stitch will be right here, and we're going to do a single crochet. So we bring the yarn through, do our single crochet, and you see how when I did that single crochet, it crunches down those stitches and it automatically becomes a bobble. Right there is your first bobble of the row. You see that? How nicely that looks? And because I counted my stitches, 1, 2, 3, it's right in a row. See that? How nice that looks? So now I've done my first stitch. We're going to do some more here until you get the hang of it. We're going to do the rest of the row. So I just did my first stitch of the next. So now I got to go again to, I'm doing my single crochet. 3, 4, and my next one is 5. So now I'm going to yarn over because I have to do my bobble again, right? So in that next stitch, yarn over, bring it through, go through 2 loops, yarn over, go through 2 loops, yarn over, bring it through, go through 2 loops, yarn over again, and we have 4, because remember this is from the previous stitch, so we have 4. 2 more times, yarn over, and then yarn over one last time. Whoops, and I went through an extra loop. There we go. So again, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochet loops on there. So I'm going to yarn over and go through all 3, plus there's that initial stitch. So you go through all the loops on the hook. Then we're going to single crochet here, which is going to crunch up the stitches and make a bobble. Okay, there's 2 bobbles done. We're going to do the third one. So I have my first single crochet, 2, oops, 3, 4, and here come with my 5th one again. Oh, did I count right? Yes, I did. So let me show you how to count now that we're doing this, because I wasn't sure if I was right. So let me show you. So this is the back of the bobble that we just did. You see how that loop is a little bit bigger? It's going to be bigger because that's, you know, we had all of those double crochets on there. So that's going to be a little bit bigger, but it also makes it easy to count. So this is from the previous. So the little stitch right here, you can see the little loop. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 single crochets. So now I know, okay, yep, my next one is, my next stitch right here is going to be that bobble. So again, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see that? Those little loops, those stitches? So okay, so my next one, tighten this back up again. I'm going to yarn over and go in the next stitch, and I'm going to do my bobble. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, whoop, there we go. 4, 5, 6, and then remember we got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochets on here, and plus the 1 loop from the single crochet that leads up to it. So we go through all 7 loops. And when I go through all 7 loops, I'm kind of holding my hook taut against the top of the loops so I can turn my hook and bring that yarn through. Excuse me. So again, we're going to go down to the next stitch and do a single crochet. And we count 1, 2, 3, 4, and here's my last bobble in the row, and then I'll finish this and then I'll show you how to crochet over the top. And so here we go. Whoops, you know what, I'm going to get more yarn because I'd hate to run out in the middle of it. Here we go. All right, yarn over, and then in the next stitch here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, as I said previously, I hold this kind of a little bit taut. It's kind of like more towards the top. I yarn over, and so then that way, if I don't do that, sometimes my hook will catch on things, on little yarns on the way through, and then I have to put my hook back in, or sometimes take it out and redo some of the stitches until I get it right again. So now I bring this all the way through. There we go. And then my last 5 stitches of the row. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we got a chain 3 to start the row, so I got to make sure I go into that top of the top chain of the initial chain 3 of the previous row. 5. Okay, and now I'm going to turn this over. Doesn't this look nice? It's a nice square piece. Edges are nice. Bobbles are lined up. You could put a ruler on those bobbles. They're all the same, about the same tension. And believe me, I've made some blankets recently with bobbles, so you'll see the patterns on the website. So I've had some practice on bobbles, so they're starting to look kind of uniform. It's kind of exciting. So now remember, the rows in between the bobbles, I happen to have done a double crochet. So I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, and then in the first, so sometimes folk can't tell where to put the hook when they are starting the row, and they'll end up with uneven rows. So that first chain 3, you see how it carries right through? This is the first stitch. This is the first counting double crochet. This next stitch right here, right there, is my chain I start with. So right here, because you want to have a stitch on top of every single double crochet and every single stitch that there is, or every single crochet in this case. So there's 1, actually it's 3 because the chain 3 counts as a double crochet, so that's 3. And I just did a single crochet. That's really funny. Okay, so we have a chain 3, which counts as a double crochet, and then we're going to do number 3, whoopsies, on top of the next hook, or on top of the next stitch, 3, yarn over, 4. Now, you might be thinking that your next stitch is inside this bobble, but let's make sure that we're looking at our stitches. So we have this chain 3 is above, and of course I'm pulling it, making it look awful, but you'll see. You'll see that it actually is straight down here. So this chain 3 is on top of this chain 3. This double crochet is on top of this one. Always be looking at your row below to make sure that your stitch is lined up on top of the next one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. If you notice, there's a stitch under here, and a stitch here, and a stitch here. Right? This bobble is just not one stitch. Do you see this? There's a stitch here, here, and here. So when working your stitches. We have 4 right now, and remember, every 5th one I'm putting a bobble. Well, the last 5, my bobble would have gone here because my starting stitch, my number 1 stitch right after this bobble, let's turn this around. My starting stitch right after this bobble would have been right here. Do you see how there's that little stitch there? I have to put my hook right there, because then if I count these other stitches, I'm going to turn this around here. Remember, this is the bigger, this is a stitch, this is a bobble. So then I started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bobble. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4. This would have been a bobble. So when you come back, your 5 is not going to be on top of the bobble. It's going to be that stitch right here in front of the bobble. Hopefully this makes sense. So let's count again. Just double check that we got the row, so you can see it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the bobble. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is that bobble. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the next bobble. Are you starting to see the stitches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the bobble. So this is the 5th stitch we're going to do here. So I'm going to turn this back over, and we're going to, if you see this little stitch, see that? Let me pull this over. You can see that here's the double crochet. Here's that stitch. So yarn over, you got to go in there. Some people forget this stitch, and that will mess you up if you do. There's 5. So now your first one of your next 5 is going to be your bobble. So you got the nice big stitch here. You can't miss that. So that's the 2 loops right in the back of the bobble. That's number 1. Yarn over. Here's the next stitch, number 2. Three, 4, and again number 5. Number 5 is right here, so we got to do that stitch just before the bobble. 5. Yarn over the bobble, go to the back of the bobble. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again in the 1 stitch, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and our last ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My yarn just gotta move it closer here. 5. So we have a nice square piece. We've done our first row. After that, each stitch has a double crochet on top of it. Now if you wanted to do the bobble the way I have, so again, this is the side. If I wanted to work a bobble, I'd work the bobble row right here, or in this case I didn't want them right on top of each other. I did a double crochet, this double crochet and another double crochet, so I did 3 in between rows. So 1, 2, 3 double crochets. Then when I had my piece facing away from me, I did the single crochet and I did my bobbles. So this is how you do a 6 double crochet together and create your bobbles. I hope that you check out the website and see some patterns that it's used in and enjoy. It's just such a fun thing. These can be used for, you see patterns with writing on them, and they're just fun. They're a fun element. They're fun for baby blankets. Babies like to play with them. They are kind of a fun little thing. And you can kind of shape them a little bit. If need be after, you can kind of push them into a ball a little bit more. See if I scrunch that around and push it into a ball. You can kind of make it a little bit prettier. Make them stand up a little bit more. See, I'm kind of messing with them now. See how different the shape turns into more of a ball? just very fun. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you have yourself a wonderful day. Take care.